Rwanda's climate facilitates production of a wide range of fruits, vegetables and flowers throughout the year. Rwanda's horticultural products are the highest quality and comply to market standards due to the best agricultural practices that meet the environmental protection measures. With the entry of new investors, Rwanda's horticulture exports are reaching local, regional and global markets. On today's show, we'll be exploring the development of horticulture businesses in Rwanda. I am your host, Diana Iriza. This is Business Digest. On our first top story today, we'll be looking at how fruits can grow sustainably on dry lands. The 25th edition of the Africa Regional Conference 2018 gets carried out here in Kigali. And on the market trend segment today, we'll be bringing you the Consumer Price Index, the May edition. In the absence of any type of irrigation, soils meant for horticultural practices are highly erodible, lack structure and have a very coarse in texture with a low water holding capacity. Intensive agricultural practices, increasing population pressure, water depletion are all threatening the sustainability of agriculture. In view of the mounting demand for food, it is vital to link enhanced food production with nutritional security, conservation of natural resources, increasing farmers' incomes, employment generation through agricultural diversification. Have a look at this. Horticulture is a job-intensive and investment-attracting industry, and this has generated jobs to a large proportion of Rwandans and provided foreign currencies to the country. Besides economic receipts and jobs, other horticulture-related benefits include improving people's nutrition situation, creating a better image for Rwanda, encouraging private-public sector partnerships in horticulture-related industries, and generating public awareness for the industry. If Rwanda succeeds in developing a differentiated position, it can replicate recent successes currently experienced by neighboring countries. In East Africa, horticulture is Kenya's largest export industry, generating more than $400 million receipts, surpassing even coffee and tea. In Uganda, horticulture exports in 2014 $45 million. Ethiopia has managed to grow a horticulture industry that generates more than $30 million in exports in just 4 years. Rwanda can be the next success story in horticulture. Rwanda is blessed with natural climatic conditions necessary to win in horticulture, the right soils, temperatures, rainfall and sunshine, as well as an abundant and hardworking labor force. Now, agriculture happens to be the backbone of Rwanda's economy. It accounts for 39% of the GDP, 80% of Rwanda's economy, and also 90% of Rwanda's food needs. Right here, we're at Bugesera district at an agricultural farm known as Swiss Farm, and with me is Martin Busowezi, the agronomist of Swiss Farm, and he's going to share with us a few details on what the farm is all about and what it has contributed so far to the country's economy. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Now, Mr. Martin, share with us the background of the farm.
Swiss Farm was established in 2015. That's when we did our first cultivation here. And the objective of establishing this farm, purely the farm owner looked at why he could not access some fruits on the market. One thing was because Burundi had blocked some of the entrance of its fruits, and the market was having not enough. So that was where the idea came from, and we said, why can't we do fruits at this farm? So we discovered Bugesera could be a potential for fruit production, and here we mainly have fruit crops, but we also do some vegetables. We have bananas, avocado, mango, oranges and lemons.
Okay, and one thing you haven't mentioned is how long the farm has been running. For how long has it been occupying this area?
Yeah, the farm actually has been in operation for around 3.5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, interesting. So during what seasons exactly do you plant the crops, the food crops and the fruits? And when do you harvest the products?
Okay. Now here at Swiss Farm, we have access to water. We can grow at any period of the year because we do what we call precision irrigation. Yeah, we have precision irrigation, as you are going to see in our tour.
Okay, when exactly, in what kind of months do you carry out the irrigation?
Irrigation, when it's rainy season, of course, we get water from the rain, but as soon as the rain stops, we start supplementing water to our crops via irrigation facilities.
So right now as we speak, do you have any crops that you've harvested so far? And if so, how many crops do you have, and fruits also? And would you share with us, please share with us what you do with the crops and the fruits? Like, where do they go? Do you sell them? Do you use them for just recreational activities?
Okay, thank you. Here actually, as you can see, the bananas, they haven't yet started maturing, but for oranges, Swiss Hotel buys us our fruits from us, and we also supply some hotels around town. But for avocado, because we have quite a volume, we do work with exporters who export our avocados to UK.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Interesting. And obviously, you don't do this by yourself. I'm sure there's a number of people under the staff. Yep. So share with us, how many people have you employed so far?
We have, I think, 7 permanent staff who work here on day-to-day basis. That includes technicians and some field supervisors. But we also employ a lot of casual workers from the community.
Now, Bugesera district has been considered as a dry area, the kind of area that would not support the growth of the fruits that you're seeing here. But so far, agronomists have proven people wrong by setting up irrigation schemes. The kind of irrigation scheme that you're seeing here is used to draw water from the lake and also used to irrigate the plants. What kind of obstacles do you face when it comes to running this kind of business? What kind of challenges hurt this kind of business?
Well, not so many challenges. But here we use purely organic products. So one of the challenges that sometimes we have pests that are kind of resistant to organic products, and we are not allowed to use, we don't recommend chemicals in this farm. So that's what I would say. The other challenge would be water, but you can see we have water supplied.
Right next to
we are just right next to the water, and we have lines here that supply precision water per each tree.
Are there any other business ideas that are going to be set up around this farm?
Yeah, actually this farm, what we are kind of, we want to demonstrate to farmers that we can do fruit production in dry areas like Bugesera. Yeah, so that's what we want to demonstrate. So we want farmers to be coming here. We train them how we supply water to the crops, and then we teach them how they can produce the fruits, as you can see, avocado, papaya, ananas. So that's what we want to demonstrate. They come here, they learn, and then they can replicate. We can have a replication of this farm into other parts of Bugesera or even the rest of the country.
Okay. Yep. Back to the employment question. Yep. You did mention the amount of people that carry out labor around this area, because it's such a huge farm. Like, what amount of people do you need in order to have all these plants grown here?
Yeah, as I told you that we have 7 permanent staff and close to 100 casual workers we use per day. Yeah. Okay,
I say we're standing right next to an avocado tree. When was this planted? How long does it take for this tree to reach where it is right now?
This tree was planted in 2015, so you can see it's around 3 years.
3 years, that's quite a long time.
But it's not that it started producing now, it started producing at 2 years. Yeah, 2 years we started
producing the fruits,
Yeah, producing the fruits.
So these fruits, as you can see, they're not ripe as yet?
No.
They're 2 years old?
No, they are not 2 years. The tree is 3 years old. The fruits, as you can see, you are seeing fruits and you're having new flowers, so fruits keep coming with time. But the tree started producing at 2 years, so it has been producing for over a year now. Yeah, probably this is our 3rd harvest.
Do you have any other companies that you deal with competition with that do agro farming as well, that you end up competing with in terms of producing crops and fruits?
Well, what I could say, there are the few smallholder farmers. I would say not very many commercial farmers that are producing to such a scale. Yeah, farmers are producing 50 trees, but here we have over 2,000 fruit trees in the farm. So not so many farms are to this acreage, but of course I'm sure as many are getting interested in the business, we shall see more and more coming, I think, in the future.
Is there anything that you would recommend the government to do in support of agro farming businesses?
Yeah, I think there is a lot government can do, like sensitizing investors into agribusiness, like especially in fruit production, because here we have quite a huge potential, especially when we are talking of exports. We can have a lot of export production coming from fruit production, as we are witnessing as of now in flowers. Yes.
All right, lastly, before we conclude our interview, is this the kind of business that you would recommend any other Rwandan to partake?
Very. I would recommend anybody, farmers, to go into this business, because as you could see, you can see in the farm there is quite a lot of space. Growing fruit trees doesn't necessarily mean that the farmer has only to use the land for fruit trees. You can grow any other crop in the middle of the trees. So that is a double benefit. You are benefiting from the tree and you are also benefiting from the spaces in between the trees. So that's maximum utilization of resources. And given that Rwanda we have small lands, so we need to maximize everything, not to grow only vegetables or not to grow only fruit crops, but intercrop with fruit crops such as this. Then you are having double benefits from both crops. So I would recommend anybody willing, please, this is a business and which requires not so much intensive care and very profitable business.
Due to various changes occurring within the Africa's financial industry, the Africa Regional Conference 2018 was held here in Kigali, bringing together various countries from the continent to discuss and tackle issues that affect Africa's financial service sectors with a focus on innovation, new technology, cybersecurity and compliance. With many African countries still facing challenges as a result of global economic conditions, the first day of Africa Regional Conference looked at how innovation continues to drive real growth and development across the continent, how technology, innovation and disruption can produce tangible solutions to the continent's most pressing challenges. It also looked at how the financial industry is responding to rapidly evolving customer needs and expectations, from faster payments to more transparency and traceability in the payments life cycle. Financial institutions have long been the prime targets of cybercrime, and the estimated cost of cybercrime in Africa has soared in recent years. The threat landscape for financial institutions is constantly evolving, and banks are under increasing pressure to invest time, money and resources to stay ahead of the game. Is the financial industry doing enough to combat the threat and secure its future in the challenging environment? Day 2 looked at how banks can stay resilient in the cyber age and how governments and regulators across the continent can help the financial community better prepare and protect itself from cybercrime. Looking at the compliance objective of the event, de-risking in Africa is on the rise. Banks around the world are reducing their correspondent banking relationships with a focus on perceived higher risk jurisdictions, including Africa. Day 3 looked at the real economic and social impact of de-risking in Africa and looked at how Africa's financial community can keep up with compliance.
This is actually quite new. We launched this initiative about 18 months ago, and it's about actually making cross-border payments, eventually all over the next few years, domestic as well, a lot faster, a lot more visible, a lot more transparent, and also traceable as well. The reality is that when you send a payments over the SWIFT network, physically, from a network point of view, these transactions don't take more than a few seconds. But the reality when you make payments, especially cross-border payments, you have a certain number of frictions that actually are happening during the transfer. Frictions like foreign exchange that needs to happen as well. Frictions like compliance, rules that you need to be actually adhering to. So all of that is actually making the international transactions a lot more slower than expected, and was making actually this world of correspondent banking actually quite outdated. So about 18 months ago, the community of SWIFT, the banks of SWIFT, got together in trying to find ways in which we can make this actually a lot better for the future and really enhancing the level of service that we have. And basically we created a new service that is in one way built upon the rail of SWIFT, so it is still a SWIFT network, upon which we've built a SWIFT service level agreement that basically makes sure that all the participants of the system are adhering to the rules of that service. Like, for instance, the payment has to be delivered to the final recipient within the same working day. And the third one is an additional piece of technology that enables every single participant of the system to monitor, like you would do with DHL, to monitor where the payment is actually sitting in the global transfer. So we launched this about 18 months ago, and we really attracted a huge success. I mean, so far we have about 150 banks in the world that are actually subscribing to the service. We have about now 60 of them that are live. We have hundreds of thousands of transactions per day, carrying about $100 billion every day, with about 450 different corridors through which actually the service is being used. And more importantly is that we've realized now that we have these volumes, that 50% of all those transactions that are being sent are actually being delivered to the final recipient within a few hours, only 3 hours we're talking about. But also many of them are being delivered within sometimes a few seconds or a few minutes. That is now proving that by gathering everybody together, the industry, with the technology we bring as well, we can make this business a lot more efficient than it used to be. Well, I mean, the challenges remain, right? What we want to make sure is this GPI initiative is becoming actually the baseline of our innovation moving forward. We'd like that at a certain point of time, every single bank that is using SWIFT actually will be using GPI for the international transfers, and eventually, as I mentioned before, also using GPI for domestic transfers, and ultimately even leading to retail business, because what we see in those developments is that more and more banks are now proposing GPI kind of transfer to their retail business as well. So we believe that over the years, the sort of target objective we have is to making sure that by 2020, every single bank's of SWIFT will be able to using GPI, will be enabled with GPI, that it will become the sort of, the baseline upon which much more innovation will be created as well. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that this is actually our 25th African Regional Conference. We're very proud actually to be here. We've been in Africa for more than 35 years, so we're not actually a newcomer in this continent. And the objective has always been a bit of the same, right? We want to make sure that through the conference, we're bringing the right practitioners around the table, coming from many different countries. We have today about 500 actually delegates being here, coming from more than 50 countries of Africa, and really discussing a certain number of topics that are actually relevant for the industry. And amongst those is really about the evolution of technology that will make ultimately the customer experience a lot different in the future. So we want to actually talk about that. We bring the right people. This morning we were honored to have the Prime Minister of Rwanda addressing the opening plenary, and also talking about the plans that the country has about bringing new technologies, opening the borders to other countries, and ultimately making sure that the global economic growth of this country remains sustainable, even accelerate over the future.
The objectives of the conference, I think this may take a step back. I mean, it's SWIFT is a community, so the objective of the conference is to get close to our community. Being a cooperative, we're owned by the people, the commercial banks, anybody that works in the financial services, then a member. So what is the objective is to share with the community on a yearly basis what we've done in different products and different services to help them in the financial services, from securing the infrastructure to helping them comply with managing risks and comply in terms of audit, etc., and innovation, like for instance probably you've heard Global Payment Initiative. This is where we're helping to do real-time payments between commercial banks. Yes, we have a very close relationship with the Central Bank of Rwanda, and I mean, for the last couple of years we've been in discussion with the Central Bank. Last year we had it in the Ivory Coast. They were one of the candidates, and for the many years that I've been coming here, this has been a discussion. So we have different criteria to have it. They now fully comply with the criteria. I mean, your hotels, the infrastructure, etc. And then the key thing is an active community. So we have an active community of about 14 commercial banks here, and then the Central Bank, who's very, let's say, very innovative in the way that they want to manage risks related to cross-border payments, making sure that they're not funding crime or terrorist activities. So they've become part of the larger commercial or the larger financial, and to be part of that community, you need to have the right tools in place to manage it. So so when we started in Kenya, in East Africa, so it's good to come back to Rwanda.
Coming to you from the 25th edition of the SWIFT Africa Regional Conference, where different measures on how to shape up Africa's financial industry is being discussed by 400 financial service representatives from across Africa. And with us here is Sido Bestani, the SWIFT Regional Director of Middle East, Turkey and Africa. And he's here going to share with us his opinion on today's event. Now, first and foremost, let us know, what is your opinion on Rwanda's financial sector?
This morning we had actually the Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda. We also had the Honorable Governor of National Bank of Rwanda. And what they have shared with us is that the Rwanda is working in the right direction in terms of technology, innovation, especially, for example, the latest project around the cashless society. So I think Rwanda is taking the right direction for the industry.
Now, according to my observation, there's a variety of people from different parts of Africa. Now, please let us know, how does Africa benefit from this kind of event?
Yeah, so like you rightly mentioned, we have more than 50 nationalities here, 50 countries represented here with 500 participants. Again, this is really a platform to discuss about the different initiatives that you can have at the local level, at the regional level, at the continent level. So it's sharing experience. It is about also talking about topics which are relevant to all these different countries. There are topics which are really relevant to all of them, you know, cyber security, payment landscape evolution, financial crime compliance. So many topics which are of interest to everybody, and this is the reason why people are eager to come to the conference, because then they can share and they can learn also at the same time.
All right, so let's discuss a little bit on North America being the main route for financial flows from Africa, and how recently it has been decreasing from 41.7% in 2013 to 39.5% in 2018. Why is that?
But from the Swiss perspective, it's different. We don't make a link between those trends and these external factors. What we can tell you is that when we talk to those experts, the bankers, the African bankers, they come up with some explanation, such as the international regulation pressure, putting pressure on the banks, which then have impacting the flow of transaction between the African continent and the US continent. We also see a good ramp up of the intra-Africa trade, so more trade between Africa countries, which is basically taking a bit of market share from the flows between African countries and the US.
And today on Market Trends, we bring you the Gross Domestic Product, the March 2018 edition. First and foremost, the Gross Domestic Product and its structure. In 2017, the GDP at current market prices was estimated by 7,597 billion Rwandan francs, up from 6,672 billion Rwandan francs in 2016. The services sector contributed 46% of GDP, while the agriculture sector contributed 31% of the GDP. The industry sector contributed 16% of GDP, and 7% was attributed to adjustment for taxes less subsidized on products. Next, the growth rate by kind of activity. In 2017, estimates calculated in 2014 prices shows that GDP was 6.1% higher in real terms compared to 2016. In this year of 2018, agriculture sector increased by 7% and contributed to 1.8 percent points to the overall GDP growth. Activities in the industrial sector increased by 4% and contributed 0.7 percent points to the GDP growth. Service sector increased by 8% and contributed 3.9 percent points to the GDP growth. Lastly, expenditure GDP. In 2017, private final consumption expenditure was 76% of the GDP, while government final consumption expenditure was 15%. Gross capital formation is estimated at 23% of GDP. In this year of 2018, imports of goods and services increased by 10% at constant 2014 prices. Exports of goods and services increased by 34%.
And that's all we had for today's show. Make sure to tune in again next week as we explore how Rwandan entrepreneurs are using literature to grow in the business world. I am your host, Anna Iriza. Thank you for watching and see you next week.